Marker. This is the Shaken and Stirred show. I'm really excited today because I've got one of my sort of favorite new people. I don't really know him, but I feel like I know him. And I think that so many of you out there feel like you know him. He's probably been with you at rather special times, awkward times, difficult times, sweaty times, hot times. He may well have even made you feel hot and sweaty, actually, and everything else in between. Our guest today is a celebrity trainer, but he's also a trainer that's a celebrity. He's a choreographer. He's a Broadway dancer. He's arguably the #1 breakout star of virtual fitness. And he's here to get us all torched on the Shaken and Stirred show. Please welcome Issac Boots. Issac, how are you, mate?
I'm so good, so good. I'm blushing after that intro. Thank you.
Oh, I'm blushing too after that intro, but I'm not quite sure why. I feel kind of just generally heated up and torched.
I'm shaken, stirred, and torched. Okay.
There we go. There we go. So, what are you drinking, my friend?
A vodka rocks, a very sensible vodka rocks with lemon. It's kind of my go-to.
Is it? Why is that? Because it's a sort of diet drink.
It's not really. I mean, it's just clean. It gets to the point. And I actually prefer bourbon, but I'm not allowed to. So that was one of the caveats of getting married. Jeffrey was like, yes, as long as you never drink bourbon. I was like,
why? What happened when you drink? What happened when you drank bourbon?
I think I get a little too festive. So. Cheers, vodka.
Wait a second. I wanted to cheers first of all. Here you go. He's not even waiting. I love this. Issac
what are you drinking?
Issac is serious. I like to compliment my guests when they drink and drink either something very similar or something that's a twist on what you're drinking. So yeah. I also am drinking a vodka rocks with a twist. But I wanted to get into it a little bit because one of the things we talk about here, obviously on Shaken and Stirred show, is alcohol and the stories behind it. I love the fact that this is. You mentioned it's clean.
Clean. For me, I feel like I can drink less of it and feel satiated, as opposed to bourbon. I can go.
Both bourbon and vodka are hardcore liquors. They're 80% proof. I mean, vodka can't even be called vodka unless it's 80% proof, right?
I drink 100 proof.
So he drinks 100 proof, which, by the way, guys, the more you distill your vodka, the higher the level of alcohol, right? So, and the #1 vodkas have high alcohol levels. What vodka do you drink?
Basically, the idea is I like high quality. I like a higher proof because then it's less consumption ultimately, and I can still have a fabulous time. And I don't know, there's something really sort of refreshing about just having a twist of lemon in it,
Absolutely.
and you get your vitamin C.
Well, and there's that too. And by the way, guys, vodka, for those of you who, and by the way, no one's not familiar with vodka if anyone drinks. I mean, it's been around for 1,000 years. The Russians claim to have invented it. The Poles claim to have invented it. Although the Russians you can track it back to about 1117 when they first apparently made vodka, but it was pretty grim stuff. Distilled only once, well, not very high in alcohol.
As long as it burns, right? As long as it burns.
Well, that's apparently the thing, you see. So the more you distill it, the less it burns, and the smoother it is. And then they sort of brought in charcoal 300 years later, which makes it even cleaner and even more. And the funny thing about vodka is you can make it out of anything, normally grains, but you can literally make it out of anything that has sugar in it, including milk even.
Oh, really?
Potatoes. Oh, yeah, anything, because it's basically ethanol and water combined. Right, so you ever seen your mother clean something like her makeup equipment, and she uses sort of rubbing alcohol? There isn't much different. It's a form of vodka.
I've seen her drink rubbing alcohol. So yes.
Wow, and that's a whole nother story which we're going to get into. I'm already loving where this is headed. Issac is opening up, in all forms, of all levels right now. So yes. Enough about vodka for the moment. Let's get into before we move into anything else, I actually do have another question about vodka.
Okay.
It is considered to be low calorie by everyone. Do you know much about that? I mean, it's apparently 97 calories for one shot, for one jigger. Do you care about that? Do you talk to your clients about that?
I generally stay away from talking about that because, working in Hollywood, working in theater as a dancer, I've we've all experienced or had friends who've experienced disordered eating, right? So I do get serious about that. I don't talk about calories. I don't harp on that. I'm not a nutritionist. I always say that. So I always have a new nutritionist that is on the team. But it's more about feeling and how you feel during and the next day. And for me and for a lot of my clients, drinking something like a vodka rocks, something like a tequila rocks. The next day, we tend to feel less debilitated than, say, like, a bottle of champagne or
Right.
a mixed cocktail, which tastes great in the moment. But we're sort of, I work with a lot of high performance people, so they have to be on set, they're on tour, they're filming, so like a sensible vodka rocks. You sort of drink a water with it, and you're able to have fun, but also wake up feeling good, feeling better.
It's a form of martini, people. Let's just face it. It's basically a form of martini, but without the vermouth.
I like the sound of ice, though.
Who doesn't? Clink, clink, little ice. But I like the big ice.
I'm not a fan of the big ice, actually.
Really? That's so surprising.
The only thing I don't like that is big.
There we go, people. He does not like big ice, unless they are balls of ice, in which case he's all about it. Moving swiftly on, Issac, you grew up in Hawaii. You've talked about this in many interviews and what have you. It's there in your bio. You came from humble beginnings, and you grew up in a very different sort of life in a way that you're living now, for sure. Yeah. I'm looking at your beautiful apartment behind you. It looks stunning, or your house, wherever it might be in Florida right now. That you're, living the life of luxury, and it's a wonderful thing. And congratulations on all your success. But that wasn't how you grew up. And I wonder, what does a young boy growing up in Hawaii? Does a young boy growing up in Hawaii dream of dancing on Broadway? Was that something that was in your dreams at that point?
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of an all-encompassing dream, and, watching Madonna videos over and over again, talked about this before, was really a form of escape. I mean, I did have a kind of like a Dickensian childhood, but I don't complain about it, really, because it really, as cliche as it sounded, it made me who I am, and I am thankful for it. And at the end of the day, my mother, as contentious as our relationship has been, I will always defend her in saying that she did the best she could, and she worked her butt off and worked with what she had, and she had me very young, and the older you get, you sort of look back and see, oh God, it was when you're a kid, I think you have a sort of, very limited view of what the reality is.
I mean, hindsight is everything, obviously. I mean, you can look back, and
hindsight is everything. And she gave me work ethic. She was really tough. But it's the reason I never miss work. I'm always on time. I'm always full out. I'm a pusher, and a lot of it has to do with that. On the flip side, my grandmother was a beacon of love, and didn't have 2 dimes to shake together at all, but was the most jovial and beautiful and generous person I've ever had. And she sadly passed, but she's still with me. So I always say, my mother taught me drive, but my grandma taught me love. And I think that recipe, along with the dreaming and the hoping, and really being sort of naively optimistic. I never thought anything was out of my reach, and on the surface, it really was.
That's a very unusual thing to happen, because I certainly, a lot of kids, that's the one thing they suffer from, is the fact that they perhaps look at the world and think that could never be me, that would never be my life. I'd live in, wherever it might be, some small town somewhere, and how could I possibly ever be on a red carpet? How could I ever be in a limousine? How could I ever stand next to a celebrity? Let alone what you're doing, which is you're actually training them and instructing them, and and hanging out with them. So there was, you mentioned the Madonna, and obviously I have interviewed you before, and and you've talked about it many times in other interviews that you are a big Madonna fan, always have been, and she was your inspiration when you were a kid, and you pretty much taught yourself to dance by looking at her videos and stuff like that. That is unusual. That's crazy. What would you do? Put it on the television or MTV? How were you doing it?
Well, I couldn't afford dance class, and I mean, honestly, looking back, I always say I couldn't afford dance class, but I didn't even think I knew dance class existed.
Right.
Like, I mean, I grew up in a very different world. There was not a thing. I was born in 1980, so I'm really a child of MTV, and so I was like 4 years old, and I saw her, do a hitch kick in the Borderline video, and I was like transfixed. And just her, particularly then, being a New Yorker and just her grit and her ambition, and then learning her story as I got older from, how she made it. And she was and continues to be incredibly inspirational to me, because she's one of the few people, and I think everyone can attest to this about her, whether you know her or not, is that she never takes no for an answer. And she's unabashedly unafraid of not only asking for what she wants, but getting it. And I think that's really admirable. You
have a good Madonna story, surely.
I have a few, but she's always been amazing to me. Like she's jumped on me. She's like sat on my lap, like very, very cute, very, very sort of welcoming to me.
I have a good Madonna story as well, which is when I lived in London when I was a kid, and I first moved out of my parents' house, and I had a place on Tregunta Road basically in the Fulham area, Chelsea area of London, and lo and behold, lots of cool people started to move in on this street, and Margaret Thatcher lived on the street. She's not so cool, but it was rather wonderful to have her there. There were all kinds of people, and she is an icon. She is definitely an icon. Was an icon, and we had this one point. I had this knock on the door, and I went to the front door, and I was just wearing my kind of like shorts, and I don't think I had a t-shirt on or anything, and just opened the door, and the person outside goes, "Hi, I'm just new. I've just moved in next door. Do you know where the nearest supermarket is? I would like to get some milk, and I'm trying to get some milk." And I look, and I'm like,
"You're like, is you Madonna?"
It's Madonna. Madonna had come to my door.
Isn't that crazy?
Had done the knock on the door of the English neighbor, and I had come, and I called my friend who was upstairs, my roommate. I'm like, Madonna would like some milk, and he was like, "What?" He was on the buzzer, one of those buzzers, and he was like, "What are you talking about? Madonna wants milk, you crazy this." And anyway, it was. I mean, I went up and got her milk, and then I showed her where it was, and she moved in with Guy Ritchie next door.
Oh my god! So I think that's another example of how kind of cool she is, and surprisingly unaffected, Yeah. And I found, and I think you found too, that the bigger the star. Bigger meaning the longer their career has been, ultimately the cooler they are, in my experience.
I 100% agree. In fact, you'll find often on photo shoots, they're the ones with the smallest entourage.
It's true. I mean? And they get it done, and they know their angles, they know their lights, they're appreciative of the crew. And I don't know, I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from people like, Madonna and Faye Dunaway and people who've been doing it for a long time.
Eyes of Laura Mars.
Come on, baby.
I mean, that was a movie that totally changed me too. I mean, I watched that movie and I'm like, man, that is like one of the greatest movies ever. I love movies after that.
Legendary. And she is still referenced for so many of her roles, which is amazing on fashion shoots and music tours. But one really sort of pinch me moment was Faye Dunaway was our matron of honor for our wedding.
Wow.
Yeah, which was very, very cool.
That's very cool. I mean,
Yeah.
not many people can say that. Hey, that's a pretty look. I want to go back. We've jumped forward in time because it's so bloody exciting. Your life is so ridiculously
Vodka.
cool right now. But we're going to be ping ponging in this podcast. I can tell. Look, he's already pretty much finished.
We talked about this before, but look at this pitiful thimble.
No, that's normally how my drink looks like when I'm done with my drink. That's like when I'm finished with my drink. But clearly your husband knows you well, and he wants to make sure that this stays on track. And the fact that you're looking very closely to your left, I think, or is it your right, means that he's probably so close that he's actually, making sure you don't do anything outrageous.
We're a good match.
There he is. How are you, sir?
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well. Lucky you.
He's a Taurus. He's very grounded. I'm a Scorpio, so it's a moment.
I'm a Taurus as well. When's your birthday?
May 3rd.
May 3rd. I'm April 27th, so I'm coming up, but not far off from you, just a few days.
I'm a Taurus.
What are you, 25?
25, exactly. That's what I'm going to be coming. I'm going to be turning 25, everybody. Just multiply that by 2. And you've got it. I'm going to turn the big 50. So
great.
Wow.
Congrats.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. I know. Very exciting. Very exciting.
Yeah.
Look, you guys, I mean, the two of you, well, he's off, but we can talk about him in a moment. I want to get back to your marriage, but I'm taking you back in time. We're going back to Hawaii for a minute because we've got to go back to Hawaii because there's a lot of people out there who obviously want to know how you made the jump, right? Yeah. So, it's one thing saying, I watched Madonna videos at home, and it's another thing going like, then you show up in New York City with $100 in your back pocket, and you're like, what do I do next? 300, 500, whatever it might be.
35.
35?
Yep.
$35 in your, so you're either crazy or stupid. So one of those two, pick your.
Oh.
both. Neither actually, but really daring.
Crazy,
really daring.
I was crazy and stupid and fearless and
we all
pointed, sharp, focused, and I think I've always been my entire life, and I can continue to be. I mean, I saved money from 7th grade with the idea in mind that I was going to get a plane ticket to New York City, and I bought a one-way ticket the morning after high school graduation, 8 a.m. Continental, straight flight from Honolulu to Newark. That was the only flight then that was direct.
Had you ever been before?
No.
It was like a movie. I mean, you basically had watched.
To me, there was no other option. I mean, I was like, I've always been very clear about what I'm good at and what I am passionate about. And I think that's that's the real secret, right? Really, what are you good at? What do you love? Hopefully they intersect. And I had $35 left over, and I had nowhere to live, and I lived with my friend. I lived on the dormitory floor of my friend Matthew Tinker, who was a sophomore at NYU. I knew him from Hawaii. And
did he have roommates of his own?
No, it was totally illegal, and like you can't do it now, I'm sure. But like there was no like electronics.
So were you being smuggled in? How did you keep going in and out? You hiding?
You remember New York then? It was 98. It was a different thing. I don't know. He like made a copy of a card, and I just like flashed it to the security guard every day. And then he gave me, there was like a lunch card at NYU, and like so I'd be able to like go into the cafeteria, but I made friends. Like they would like smuggle food out. But it was festive, and it was fun, and it was exciting. And I think the first night I landed, Matt took me to Limelight, and we were out till like 6 a.m. But at 9 a.m., I was on the 1-9 train. It was the 1-9 then to the Upper West, to Steps Dance Studio, and offered to clean their floors. And I got.
So wait a second. You arrive in New York. You're with your buddy. You're sleeping on his floor. You got $35. You spend the night at Limelight, which was a crazy great club back in the day. And and then you're looking for a job, so you're going.
We kind of snuck in too. We kind of, or like.
I was going to say, because how'd you pay for the drinks, or were you not paying for the drinks?
I was also 17. New York was a different time. Like we looked cute.
That's all it takes to get into the limelight, by the way, people.
Yeah,
I had to pay to get in.
We were like smoking. Sorry to, I mean, just being honest, like we were like smoking cigarettes and like having a moment, and there was a sense of freedom. There was a sense. It was almost like Oz. I felt like Dorothy in Oz. You know, and my idea of New York really was from movies like Desperately Seeking Susan and Truth or Dare. You know, and so I was just excited. I wasn't scared. I was not scared. And
New York is a bit like that, though, right? It's kind of like that, right? New York is a bit like a movie in a way. I mean, in the best and the worst senses. I mean, I came to New York first time in '91, right? And I was back and forth, and finally moved there in '96. So I got you beat by a little bit.
Yeah.
But you know, but I remember, you know, very similarly to you, wandering down the streets, going to jobs, and thinking to myself, "Is this real? I feel like I'm in a film." Like, I'm so excited every day. I woke up, I could smell the bagels being cooked. I could smell, you know, people rushing to work, all of that kind of stuff. That energy.
It's the land of dreams. It's the land of success. It's the land of opportunity. It's the land of creativity, in my opinion. You know, and
if you take a risk, right? Though, if you take a risk, and that's what you were doing.
Take a risk, or New York will spit you out real quick, real quick. You know, you have to dive in. You have to sink your teeth in, or you're forgotten real quick.
So you went up to your this dance steps on the Upper West Side, and you knocked on the door.
I walked in, and it's above a supermarket there. I think it's Fairway, and you can walk up this like rickety staircase. It's like a scene from a chorus line, and I walked in, and you know, it's what you dream of. What you know, a dance studio in New York is, or at least then. I haven't been there in forever, but you know, there's a front desk, and then on the left there are these huge dance rooms, and you know, there's ballet in one, there's tap in one, there's musical theater, jazz in one, and I, you know, I mean, it was like what, like $20 for a class. I was like, I didn't have that, and so I offered to work there, to like, you know, to scrub the floors or like whatever, to take.
And they said yes. They said yes. You can.
There was a program there for out of work dancers, because most dancers in New York are out of work, because let's face it, a dancer's life is tough. You know, you're not guaranteed work, and when you are, you don't really get paid that much. But they had a program where if you scrubbed the floors, scrubbed the bathroom, or worked the cafe, you would get 10 classes a week free. That was like work. Yes, definitely. But again, you know, this is just sort of, I don't know, my sort of like clinical ambition, but the idea was to take class and sort of immerse myself in if there were choreographers working there, or just people in the business, and finding out like where auditions were, because the goal was, it wasn't really about taking class. It was about getting on Broadway. So I had to like get people to know me and just be in the mix. And I started like literally crashing auditions, because you need an agent, you need a headshot, you need this, you need to be union to get. I was like, what the hell is that? Like, what?
How do you crash a casting though? How do you find out from your friends where they're going, or what do you do?
Find out from friends, or I was reading like, you know, Variety magazine, or you know, there would be notices on the board at Steps, and I would go and I would like steal a card, or I would just when they opened the door for like the 10, like, you know, these very serious dancers who have 3 Broadway credits to their name and agents, and they're very slick, and I was just not. I just sort of ran in, and I think I you know, I made the casting directors chuckle, I think, because I think, you know, those audition days are long, so I think they also just wanted, they're looking for something that like that makes their day a little more interesting. And I knew I didn't suck, so I was like, well, I'm here, so I want to dance. And slowly but surely, I started getting called in. I didn't have a phone. I didn't have a cell phone. Like no one really had cell phones then.
Yeah.
I didn't even have a pager. And so I've never told anybody this, but there was a payphone. There was a payphone downstairs where I was staying on 7th and Avenue B, and I gave that number, and so I would like wait like outside for it to ring, or I would like tell friends if that ever rings, like tell me, and that's how I would like communicate.
Amazing.
And finally, I forgot about that actually. And
You're not the only person on that story. On that note, Richard Branson has the very same story. You know, multi-billionaire Richard Branson started off Virgin Records without a phone, and he had a phone booth, red English phone booth outside his place where he was staying, and he gave that number out, and he used to run upstairs and answer it. So you and other legends have started that way. Everybody.
You make it work. You make it work, and I never like. That's why I never understand like this sort of
entitlement.
I don't get it. I don't understand it. I feel like I'm thankful for any bit of success that I've experienced, and I cannot imagine being entitled now. I don't think think anything is mine just because.
Right.
No, that's weird. So I don't get it, and I also don't understand like sort of moping about and feeling sorry for yourself. I don't have time for it, but I think that has to do with growing up the way I did. You know, it's like
sure.
Nothing is actually worse to me than how I was treated as a kid. So ultimately, and that was kind of a blessing. It was a blessing, because now I'm just like, I'm throughout my entire life, I'm sort of, I don't care if I'm rejected or people say bad things about me or I don't get a job, or I don't care. I don't. I've gotten this far, and I didn't have formal training like these other boys. I mean, and I ended up doing West Side Story, the original choreography directed by Arthur Lawrence, who wrote it in 1957 at the Palace Theater. Like, anything.
So tell us about that. Tell us about that, because that must have been
possible,
extraordinary.
if you believe it. Anything's possible if you work at it. You know, sure. Truly. You know, I mean,
you clearly have talent. By the way, your very cute dog just jumped onto the sofa behind you.
That's my boy, Davis.
It literally, Davis. I love it. After the actress,
Betty Davis.
Betty, amazing.
No, today is Betty's birthday, actually.
Perfect. Happy birthday, Betty.
Happy birthday, Betty.
Well,
my favorite queen.
There you go. I'll drink to that as well. Cheers.
Yes, cheers. Yeah, that's just like, I don't know. I mean, I think you can, anyone who's made it in some way, whatever that means, you know, realized a goal, realized a dream, hopefully understands that you have to have gratitude. You have to have gratitude, and you can't rest on your laurels. You know, I booked West Side Story, and everyone wanted it. I had already been on Broadway for a while, so I'd already been in a few shows. I was very lucky to be able to show hop, as they call it. So for 12 years, I danced consistently without a break on Broadway, I always say I went to college on Broadway, because I learned how to, I learned a sense of community. I learned that you have to show up on time. I learned you have to be 100%. You know, you're on stage and people are paying a lot of money.
Do you have a favorite show that you did back in those days?
Mamma Mia was a beautiful experience, actually. I did it for over 6 years at the Winter Garden. And that was beautiful in that I was just talking to a client about this, actually, who's going to see Music Man there with Hugh and Sutton. And the cool thing about the Winter Garden is it's one of the oldest theaters, and a lot of the crew members there, you know, who are always my favorite. I always gravitate toward the lighting guys and the rigs and the dressers.
I wonder why.
I know we just like get it. But they work every show. So they have guys there who've been there since Cats. You know, so it's a real family. And I think that's cool. So, but by the time I got West Side, I don't know. I just sort of, I went back to ballet class. You know, I got it, and I was like, whew, I gotta like, you know, keep it cute. So I went to Alvin Ailey's studios, and by then I was making money, so I could actually afford it. I didn't have to like scrub the floor anymore. But that was humbling too. You know, like going in there like, oh yeah, I just booked like the new fabulous West Side Story that everyone wanted. But there were people in that ballet class in that beginner class who were better than me. So it's another humbling moment. Like, keep the work up, baby.
Better at ballet, but perhaps didn't have the personality, didn't have the onstage presence, didn't have whatever else, you know, what got you booked, right? I mean, that's a big part of it too, right? That's not just being able to dance.
With all due respect, Madonna, back to Madonna, but she's the biggest selling female artist of all time. She's the most, period. And she's not necessarily the best singer in the world. And it doesn't matter, because she has something else that you can't create. You can't
of course. 100%.
You know,
you gravitate towards people not because they're the prettiest or anything like that. You gravitate towards them because of chemistry, because of that sort of the way they move, the way they talk, the way they behave, the way they say, you know, the way they smell, all those things, right? It's a combination of stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. I mean, it's sort of strange even talking about that time in my life, because it does feel so far away from me, but it is a part of my DNA, you know. And I created Torched when I was in West Side Story.
Right. This is, you know, obviously Torched is this your super successful workout routine, but you started this. Did you call it Torched when you were doing it? I know you started working.
No, I didn't.
It wasn't called Torched, was it necessarily?
No, I called it Fat Assassins.
Fat Assassins. Well, it's a good thing you changed the name. It probably wouldn't have been as successful.
Yeah, I know. You know, because there was no. It was more of a joke. Like I didn't create it to become this worldwide thing, and I created it for me, because in West Side it was so challenging, and we were in the theater so much. Excuse me. That I didn't have time to go to the gym. I didn't have time to take every class I wanted to. And so
there must be people out there who must wonder, if you're working that hard on a show, why do you need to work out as well?
Oh, you need it more.
Really? See, that's interesting. You think that all that you're working out by just being on the show, but that's not the case, right?
Mm-mm. As soon as you feel that the show is your work, is work, you're done. Mm-mm.
Why?
The work happens before and after. If you're a vocalist, you are guarding this. Like, I mean, you're in voice lessons, you are humidifying, you are seeing throat doctors, you are doing scales, you're doing warm-ups, you're doing cool downs. What happens off stage is the real work. And for a dancer, if you're not in the studio every day, you'll lose it. You have to. It's like being an athlete. You know, it's athletic. You know, Michael Phelps doesn't just jump into the pool day of meet. You know, it's like it's 24/7, full out, if you take it seriously and if you want to be great. You know, it's true. And when I'm in a show, when I was in a show, that was like, I mean, for me, I took it very seriously, and so that when you're doing the show, it doesn't feel you're not out of breath. You're not. You can focus on the task at hand, and that is conveying a story. But your machine has to be prepared, you know. And whether that means taking ballet class every day, or you know, for me it was Torched, because it's sort of a mixture of everything that I loved. That I knew worked, whether it be ballet, jazz, Pilates, yoga, and really targeted reps.
So when I read about you doing Torched and how you would, you know, you basically put your boombox down before performance, you were working yourself out, and then other other dancers started to follow you, started to say, hey, what are you doing? And let me do it with you, and working out with you, say, hey, look at Issac, he's got something going on here. Let me try this out. And before you know it, you had like a troop of people working out with you.
All the Sharks, all the Jets, Bernardo, Maria, Tony.
It sounds
And
like a scene out of Fame.
it kind
I
of,
mean, you know what I mean? Like, I can imagine, like, you're like Leroy, and you're like, you're out there, you're doing your thing, and like everyone's like, wait a second, what's Issac
I've
doing?
heard that before, actually. Actually, I was cast in the off-Broadway revival of Fame in New York City. And I actually pissed the casting director off because I was so excited that I got, this is another example of me being a novice. Okay. Everyone else had agents. So like, agents like, have to deal with all of that. I had this like pay phone, and I got Mamma Mia, and they were like, Issac, you've been cast. It was a crazy audition. It was so hard. It was really one of the hardest, up there with one of the hardest auditions I've ever been to. And it was the opening of this new theater on 42nd Street, and I got it. And I was like, oh my God, yes. When do I start? Like no negotiation, like just like excited. And then 2 days later, I got a call from Nina Lannon casting that I booked Mamma Mia, and that paid a lot more. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. And it was thankfully they forgave me, because that same casting director for Fame ended up casting me in West Side Story like 10 years later. So
why was it such a difficult audition? What made it so difficult?
It was really aerobic. It was very specific jazz dance, which kind of doesn't exist anymore. Like no one really does it. I wish they did. And that's really how I learned, because that's how Madonna used to dance in the 80s, and she should do it again. But
Hint, Madonna.
side note, because it's beautiful, and it's like inverted ballet technique. So it's hyper technical, really fast. You're kicking your face, you're jumping too high, you're turning too much, all in an 8 count. And it has to be very specific. It's sort of like a child of a chorus line, right? So it's that sort of thing. And it was just very demanding. And I was so excited to do it. And then I was sad that I wasn't able to, but yeah.
Onwards and upwards, right? What are you going to do?
Onwards and upwards, yeah. That would have been fun.
So you start Torched, you start working, or you start whatever it was, fitness. I mean, what did you call it? Fat Assassins. Fat Assassins.
I started doing it for me. Really, it was for me to get ready for the show, and then the rest of the cast started joining in.
Can you imagine the outfit you would have designed for Fat Assassins? I mean, it could have been pretty good. It could have been like a ninja outfit, and you could have had sort of, you could have had those kilo weights of yours in a whole different place. It could have.
I have a very like off-color, sardonic sense of humor that doesn't translate if you're gonna go a little more mass.
Not a PC show. It's okay. We're called the Shaken and Stirred show. We like that. We get into it.
World, baby. It's a different world. But I started choreographing actually for major stars. Like sort of instantaneously. I sort of lucked out. And then another example of just always saying yes. I was asked to.
Who asked you first?
Well, my first was Brooke Shields, because I said yes to choreographing a piece for a Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS benefit, which is really big in the Broadway community. We do like 2 or 3 a year. And I guess she was there, and she was doing a show at the Box, which was very new then, downtown. And it was another benefit show down there, but she was going to do one number and asked me to choreograph it. And so I was very nervous. I was like, I'm not a choreographer. Like, I mean, I like, I don't know. I mean, but then I was like, well, I am actually, right? Because I just choreographed that, and she liked that. So, okay. And so I just sort of like delved into it, and it was a big hit, and she loved it. And 2 weeks later, I got a call she asked me to choreograph her one-woman show at Feinstein's. And opening night, we got a New York Times review, and I got a rave as a choreographer in the New York Times. And I was like, well, damn. And then that led to me working with Hugh Jackman at Jazz at Lincoln Center, which led to Ariana Grande, who I worked with for 5 years, like full out, everything, every music video, every performance. So it's another example of just saying yes, waking up, showing up, doing your best, right? I mean, that's what it is. It's a mixture of luck, timing, discipline, determination. It is.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman is someone who, as you know, is a friend of mine and someone who I have always just, he's just the most extraordinary performer. And as we know, he's doing Music Man right now. Yeah.
We did a number for, he's a big supporter of course, charities, but it's a school in Harlem for kids to experience the arts. And, kids like I was that don't understand what a dance class is or have the opportunity to, and they get top notch, I mean, major instructors, from Broadway, from opera, from everywhere. And he and John Legend are very supportive of it, and it was really beautiful to work with him. And it was another example of learning from a titan, someone who's massively talented, massively attractive, massively successful, and massively generous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the generous part is actually the most impressive part.
Yeah, no, he has one of the biggest hearts you'll ever meet in a person.
Absolutely.
Very, very kind, very, very generous. We created a gym together, the Dog Pound, in New York, and we have one in Los Angeles now as well.
My friend Vanessa goes there.
Vanessa who?
Hudgens.
Yes, absolutely. From a friend of ours, Oliver Trevino, I think brought her in Los Angeles. Yeah, I mean, it started when Hugh was training to be Wolverine, and he asked me and a couple of guys, we would train with him as his training buddies, and we worked out with him every day for 2 years. As he got into I got into the best shape of my life, and we nicknamed ourselves the Dog Pound because he'd bring his dog Dali, and I'd bring my dog Memphis, and we tied them up in the gym, and a few of us did that, and
I didn't know that story. That's amazing.
Yeah, so we were the original founders and investors in Dog Pound.
I've never been.
And you must come. If you ever would like to go, just let me know and I'll sort it out.
I would love it. I would. We're back there in May. I think that would be dope. And I have a lot of friends, a lot of clients who go there as well, and who are big fans. So yeah,
I'm sure.
And you guys did a collab with Balmain, right?
That's right. Yes, with Balmain. Yeah, we just created a shoe with Balmain, which is very cool.
Vanessa showed me those. Yes, I love them.
Well, we've got to get you a pair then. That's what that.
I would love it.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Well, listen, let's not move off you though, because Torched, you created this on Broadway. It's become a thing. Okay, let's flash forward because time is ticking here, and you've got so many.
Talk forever.
I know we could just sit down here because it could be like a 3-hour podcast. We need more vodka for sure. But
I certainly do.
I know, right? It's like, hello, I'm like this too. My glass, like tipping it up so it's all the way upside down on my face.
No, we have a refresher.
I'm like, well, normally when I'm drinking straight vodka, I don't try and have a refresher when I'm interviewing. Otherwise, it gets really sloppy very quickly. But I'm okay. That was a good, healthy pour I gave myself. But let's flash forward, right? You've done Broadway, you're being successful, the pandemic hits, and everywhere, and certainly we talked about the Dog Pound. That's a gym that I created with Hugh Jackman and a few other folks, and the gym had to shut. My gym shut. Gyms were closing everywhere. People couldn't work out. What do? You're stuck at home.
Then I came floating in.
Then literally you decided to be like, I'm going to work at home and create these rather saucy, if nothing else, very cool, very fun, and very accessible and free workouts on Instagram. You brought Torch to Instagram, and you talked about this with Torch before, but Torch is basically a workout that you can do anywhere, any place, anytime. It's not a workout that requires you to have weights or to have any specific kind of
you don't need anything. You don't need anything. That's how I created it, you know? And now you can add on. You can always add on. You can add weights. But at the crux of it, my thought was, look, I mean, dancers have arguably the best bodies in the world, not only aesthetically, but functionally. And when we're in the studio, we don't use anything. We dance, you know, and we do targeted reps, and it just made sense to me. I had been doing it for years with my clients, with, you know, Gwyneth Paltrow and Lisa Rinna and Kelly Ripa and Faye Dunaway and everybody, but the world shut down. So I offered it once on my Instagram Live. It was supposed to be a one-off, really, truly out of boredom, to be perfectly frank. The world had just shut down. It was March 13th, I believe. And there were less than 100 people on. And at the end of that live, someone wrote in, thank you from Guatemala. Now, I wasn't on there promoting anything. I was on there just doing my shit and like just having a moment. And then I saw some like friends. And I was like, hey girl, like Lizzie Tish was on. I think Chastain was on or whatever. And I saw the Guatemala comment. I thought that was very interesting. So then, you know, I did it the next day, and suddenly I had over 500 people. And then the next day, and then it tripled, and it kept growing and growing every day, and including all my clients, all my friends, you know, and Naomi Watts, and you know, people in the business, and people I've never met, people not in the industry, frontline workers, a grandmother in Tokyo, you know, tattoo mom in Kentucky. And I'm sort of getting to know these people and calling everybody out along with my clients. A weekend, it's like, you know, really sort of like a moment. And I kept getting DMs and texts from everyone saying, you got to charge for this, baby. You can make a mint. And I was like, I know, my first thought was, if this had happened when I was a kid, what would I have done? I could barely eat when the world was open.
Right.
Truly. And schools had just shut down too. And I was like, I know that a lot of kids in America rely on school lunch. Can you imagine? Right. Still. Like, actually.
That's the reason why they go to school, a lot of kids.
The real thing. Like that.
Because if they don't go to school, they don't get food.
That's it. And so I was like, oh, no, I can't be like, this is weird. I was like, no, we have to look, if people are on, I know we have a lot of people who have coins. I was like, well, let's, you know, No Kid Hungry has always been a charity that I've loved, that was dear to my heart, because I felt very connected to it, because I was that kid. And they created a specific link that went directly to them, immediate relief in major cities. And my initial goal really was $1,000, because I didn't know, you know, people are losing jobs, you know, massive.
So you made $1,000 in your first workout.
Well, we went over 10K.
In the first one.
Yeah. And then,
wow. And
then in a month we were over like 200,000, and then we were over 1 million, you know, and it's the biggest single raise for No Kid Hungry in their history, isn't it? Yeah. And I'm really happy about that. And I'm really proud of it. And
it should be.
It's proud of it in that, not in a self-aggrandizing way. Truly, I'm proud of it because we can get inundated with so much negativity and, you know, misanthropic storytelling, you know, and
Isaac, you did a good thing.
There is good in the world.
You did a good thing.
But they did a good thing. Everyone who showed up, you know, felt invested. They were like pushing each other, like yelling at each other to donate more, like call their friends to jump on and to donate more.
But you started that. You started the shift, and you gave, because you gave of your time freely, and then you decided, instead of making money out of it, you decided to give back at a time that was very difficult for so many people, and that you chose the innocent children who just simply wanted to get food in their bellies, and you could identify with that moment. And I think that, you know, every mother, every woman, every person out there who listens to that story, you know, even if they can only give $1, you know, for the workout, it made a difference. And then with numbers, you know, and then it's incredibly invigorating. So, you know, you did a good thing, and it was infectious. And that's one of the reasons how I heard about you. I mean, it was, you know, I had heard of you and I'd known of you, but I didn't really, you weren't on my radar in the same way. But that moment was a moment where my wife, I remember it was Chrissy, my wife, who had said, "Oh, I'm loving this guy, Isaac Boots, on Instagram. You've got to check him out. He's great." And I was like, "Who?" And I'm like, "I know that name." And I'm like, "I know that guy. Why do I know that guy?" She's like, "Oh, he's this celebrity trainer." And I remember tuning in one night, and she was at home, and I walked in the bedroom, and she had you set up, and she was working out with you. And I was like, I started watching. I'm like, God, he's really good, isn't he? It's not just the workout, it's the way he talks to you, it's the way he behaves. Like, no one really does that. No one, you know, it's very hard to be yourself on those sorts of things, and you did that, and I witnessed it, and I called you. I mean, that's how this whole thing started for me and you. It's like I came after you. I was like, I want to know this guy, I want to meet this guy, and I want to, you know, it's true story.
Well, and I'm honored, also because your wife is so stunning inside and out. So it's a compliment, absolutely.
Well, truly, and you, but you know, you created this, and you know, you created a very special, unique thing, and it's unbelievable. Right now, you're still doing Torched. You are in Florida. You're in Miami. You're in the Colony Hotel.
We're in Palm Beach. I'm on what we're calling the Torched Ambition Tour, where I
gotta eat your heart out.
Where I am traveling around the world in high season, being where my followers are. So it's Palm Beach in the winter. May we're in Los Angeles. Last week of May we're in Dallas. June I'm doing a Torched in Tuscany retreat, and then Paris, and then UK, and then Ibiza, and then we're in the Hamptons all summer. Then we're in Nantucket. Like I'm hitting everywhere, and Toronto, Montreal, because I have Boots babies everywhere. So I continue my virtual presence, but I am a performer, and I love meeting people, and I love seeing people as well. And you know, I mean, even Saturday, this like a few days ago, I did an impromptu Livestream fundraiser on Instagram for Childhood USA, which is my new effort to help stop child sex trafficking. And it was started by Her Majesty Queen Sylvia of Sweden. Impromptu, literally 10 minutes before I went on Instagram, and I was like, "Look, let's do this at 11." La la la. We raised over $11,000 in a half hour.
Amazing.
And that's amazing. That's like crazy. And so I just feel so thankful that people are still here and still interested and still excited, not only about keeping our bodies, you know, working and strong and able, and also taking care of kids. I feel like we spent a year and a half feeding kids. Now I want to protect them. So, you know, I'm just happy about that.
What an amazing life, what an amazing work, what an amazing person. Before I let you go, we have something on the show called Last Orders, Isaac. And I got some questions for you, and they're very easy, I think. First question is actually a question which is not actually on the list that I normally ask, but it is boots. Why boots?
When I was in high school, when I really started I took my first dance class. It was an after-school program in high school. I used to go to the ballet studio in my tights and boots, because in my head I was like, if I'm in New York, I have to wear boots. It was sort of like my armor, and it became my nickname, because then particularly no one wore boots in Hawaii. It was just not a thing.
Well, why would you wear boots in Hawaii? I mean,
and then when Instagram started, I liked how that looked better than Isaac Calpito with the two C's, and so.
Puss in Boots. There he is.
Exactly.
Okay. If you could drink a cocktail with any character from any movie, any television show, what show would it be? What character would it be? And what cocktail would it be?
Woo! Okay, well, toss up between Betty Davis and All About Eve. Vodka martini. Absolutely.
Oof, that's a good one.
She's sort of, especially that character is the personification of theater and Hollywood, and that is a big part of who I am still. And actually, and I don't know, maybe Bogart in Casablanca, just because he's impossibly fashionable and chic in it, right? He just makes you want to drink a bourbon. That would be a bourbon. Sorry.
Here's looking at you, Boots.
Come on, nothing's better. Yeah.
Okay, who would play you in the movie of your life?
Rosie O'Donnell.
Why?
Mainly so that Madonna can come on set. So I can
and get you, yeah.
No, not Rosie. Although I'm a huge Rosie fan. Who would play me? I would want Oscar Isaac too. Actually, I'm a huge fan of his. I think he's a genius.
Yeah, sure.
I think he's a genius, and you know, he's sort of ambiguously what's the word? Like you can't tell what his nationality is.
Like a chameleon, I guess, of some sort. But I know what you mean.
Oh, racially ambiguous. Is that it? Because I'm everything. I'm people can never really pinpoint. So, and he's amazing. So, yeah. And I like his last name is Isaac, and my first name is so.
I did catch. I caught that actually. That was complicated, but I did get that. Fantasy dinner party with Isaac Boots. You can invite 3 guests, dead or alive. Who would they be?
Ooh. Okay. Betty Davis, Joan Crawford, and Marlon Brando.
Marlon Brando. Sorry, Madonna, you don't make it to dinner with Isaac. He's had dinner with you enough times. He doesn't need another fantasy dinner. It's not a fantasy. He's already done it. So
how cool would that be, though? You know, or like Timothy Chalamet, Tom Hardy, and Jonathan Bailey. But that would be another thing.
That's a whole nother. That's not dinner.
Or maybe it is. Just kidding.
Go-to drinking song. In other words, when you pour yourself a drink, do you put on music and what do you listen to?
30s music. I know I'm such a weirdo. I put on 30s. I do
30s music. What does that even mean?
Like Josephine Baker, Edith Piaf, Billie Holiday,
wow.
Al Bowley. I love it. I do.
I love that too, but that's very special. My wife loves that music. Actually, Chrissy loves that music.
Oh my god, because that's what I associate with drinking. Like it's less festive and more just sort of like atmospheric, and I don't like candles on. Like I like it like early evening.
Sure.
Chateau Marmont moment.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere, people.
Right? It's kind of chic. And
final question for you.
Calming. It feels calming.
Very calming.
Yeah.
Final question for you. Isaac Boots, are you shaken or stirred?
I'm shaken and stirred, baby. And torn.
Right, baby.
Yes. All of the above. Give it all.
Let's shake it, stir it, and everybody, let's torch it.
Yes.
Check out Isaac Boots at Isaac Boots on Instagram. Cheers, mate. Thank you so much. What a wonderful guest. You've done so much for the world already. What's next for you?
The Torched Ambition Tour, baby. We're ending our residency here in Palm Beach at the Colony. We have some activations in Miami. I'm back in New York first week of May, so I have to see you.
Absolutely.
I intend to see you in Music Man too. So, but yeah, we're on tour. So go to my website and check us out in a city, whether it's LA, New York, Dallas, Paris, Tuscany, London, Ibiza, Hamptons. I'm excited.
Thank you for sharing your day with us. Everybody, this is the Shaken and Stirred Show. This is Isaac Boots. You can catch us on the Shaken and Stirred Show on Instagram. And please go to isaacboots.com and check out what he's doing and what's going on. And, he's nothing else, do a workout and you will not look back.
Or you may look back to see how great your ass looks.
Then there's that. Cheers, everybody. All the best.
Bye.
Thank you, buddy.
Bye.
Thank you very much for listening. That is Shaken and Stirred. We will be back next week with another podcast and another fantastic guest. and stay safe.
This podcast was produced and edited by Embassy Row.